Have you ever wondered why your favorite taco is costing you an arm and a leg these days? Or is your dream couch still in backorder status for months now? Join us as we go behind the scenes of the global supply chain. Let us discuss and understand its complexity and learn from the industry leaders, professionals, and subject matter experts. Expect in-depth analysis and genuine conversations about the major issues affecting the supply chain today. Welcome to Supply Chain Demystified. Your host is none other than the distinguished supply chain expert, Dr. Nick Valles. Professor Valles is the Academic Director of USC Marshall Global Supply Chain Management and Founding Executive Director of USC Marshall Randall R. Kendrick Global Supply Chain Institute.
I'm just curious about the whole understanding of this Gen Z spending habits and their purchasing habits. What's hot today may not be hot tomorrow. You mentioned something to that degree. Give me an example of that rapid, out of fashion possibility. Do you face the trouble of designing your supply chain to new product, a new commodity that might be slightly different than the previous, or this is all like a standard box and doesn't matter what the content is?
So I am happy to say that unless we start getting into fashionable refrigerators, something with a just fundamentally higher cube or weight, the network is designed to handle everything from your sneakers through some of our collectibles get a little bit on the larger side, but not terribly large. And so we are.
So we're talking about mostly the conveyable product. So it's
Correct.
A conveyable product. Basically, what it means that the product can fit in to a conveyor belt and then can be actually processed through, as opposed to the bulk product, which is too large and somebody has to manually manage it. So your business model is mostly focused on the conveyable product.
Correct, yeah, and on that point, we just turned the switch on some new automation in one of our express fulfillment centers, so absolutely part of the future.
Congratulations. So let's talk about, I spoke earlier in our 12th annual Global Supply Chain Excellence Summit about three pillars, right? The geopolitical, technology, and human capital. Walk me through from a StockX lens, each of these three.
Yeah, so certainly the future is changing quickly. I think about this new revolution or industrial revolution like for Gen AI. We see that transforming every part of our lives, and of course, StockX is not excluded, right? So it could be on the front end from further personalization. It's just like a natural fit for that technology, knowing you at a very finite level as a unique human. How can we serve up that content in a very tailored way for Nick Valles? On the back end, similarly, just whether it's optimization of coding, since we are a tech company, things in supply chain space like our procurement team, absolutely great use case and application. Looking at the overall forecasting, planning, where are things going to go? How do we further optimize? We see great promise there.
Good. So the technology how about the human capital? Are you?
Yep, sure. So we're so proud. We've got this global network, not only made up of operations supply chain teams, but they really embody our customer. So current culture, Gen Z, probably the most fun I've ever had in a job, because I get to show up in my sneakers and my hoodie and talk the latest popular things with the team. So very much represents our customer base. And although technology, whether it be on the verification side, will advance, we're always going to need a really committed set of team members.
I think it'll be very good to sort of demystify this whole verification process, because there's so many knockoffs that they look so real, so genuine. And I know I worked on a project with the Customs and Border Protections, and I remember the deputy director, she actually invited me to Washington, D.C., and I walk into her office, and there was a wall-to-wall closet of product. And she asked me to look at the authentic product and then the knockoff. And I'll tell you, I couldn't really feel or see the difference? How do you actually take that responsibility of authentication and verification and guarantee on this buyer side that you're on the hook for it?
Yeah, no, it's scary. Talk about demystifying this bad actor networks is big business. You know, they literally have replicated manufacturing processes, products, and so we go through a combination, going back to the human capital, highly trained verification experts. You don't just hire off a street someone, you actually have to train them, give them the knowledge. We have knowledge bases that have built up. You figure we do around 1 million verification items per month. So the big data side of this. And so before a trade even happens, we have our fraud team that's got the big monitors and monitoring the data side of this. Is this a behavior of a good actor or a bad actor? So we'll stop trades before they even have a chance to get on the network.
So you are not only looking at the product, but you're also looking at the seller, him or herself, and authenticating that to make sure the bad actors are kept at bay.
Absolutely. So we've got a trust index. So that index really gives us an early warning of either cancel the transaction or send that down a lane that is high risk that we need to apply additional checks and technologies. So one really good example on the technology side, about 2 years ago, we leveraged the brand, I think they call it connected commerce, where they embed RFID chips, QR codes. And so now we have another way to triangulate on items. So the embedded technology that gives us a signal, is this high risk, low risk, just yet another factor to help inform that.
No, that certainly makes sense. I'm on the advisory board of a company that does traceability, and it's very complex, but yet if it's done right, you can make it visible and detect. Yeah. So let's talk about marketplace has faced some of the challenges and have been called upon to address the sustainability. How is StockX looking at the sustainability?
So it is interesting, since we're not the brand, we're not procuring the items, and of course on the global sourcing side, understanding the DNA of how you build products. So we're downstream from that. We're in a secondary market. So for the DNA of our supply chain, there's things that we absolutely can control and or influence. So I think it's category 3 in the ESG and class 3 with carbon being really high on the list. So our carrier partners that we choose, making sure that they have a path to zero emissions in the near future, part of the selection criteria, in addition to all of the facilities that we have. So as leases renew, really pleased. We just launched a express fulfillment center in London. And so guess what? It has solar panels on the roof. And we're able to take a next step towards more sustainable facilities. And then of course, all the packaging materials and things that we use and optimizing carton size, it all adds up.
That's interesting. Do you think the StockX at some point will actually open up upstream to see the seller or the large distributor who wants to be part of your network and provide their DNA to sort of look at as part of your verification process?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I see as we get deeper partnerships with brands, that being a very clear path. On the seller side, being independent sourcers of supply, a little more challenging, but certainly a good idea that you planted.
So let's sort of summarize. I think for my audiences, when I look at StockX, obviously it's outside my league of the enticement of being on the marketplace, but for the right generation, Gen Z in this case, it's a great place for them to visit and procure things that they're hard in fashion, so to speak, and buy something, procure something with utmost confidence, they'll get the right product at the right price.
So I don't know if you're going to like me for sharing this secret with you, but you can actually buy for your wife. So if you like luxury items or if she likes any of the who's who in that space, we also have those items.
Oh, wow. So it's not just for the... Okay. You know, and I think that market, I can only imagine, is very explosive at a time, I'm sure, in terms of the demand. And certainly that drives the pricing and opportunities for the intermediaries in between. So, Sean, give me some macro data points about the marketplace and the StockX in terms of why it is so unique.
So what I found just absolutely fascinating as I got into the business, I've been here about 4.5 years, as we started as just a startup and then unicorn status. It's been a really, really fun journey. But what I found absolutely amazing is brands are distributing products around the world, hoping they get it right. But I think statistically about, brands get like 30 to 40% overproduction because they miss the demand. The forecasts are not right. And so you think about that from an ESG and sustainability standpoint, companies like us, StockX, we have the demand. We know where the demand's coming from. Further partnership collaboration, be able to reduce that forecast error or inaccuracy. And then of course, think about all of the ships and planes that create CO2 and emissions. And then another stat that I find just absolutely amazing, think about if something is hot and comes in demand, and normally it'd be on the boat, right, on a steamship line. But if they have to switch to air, it's about 35% more CO2 emissions.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Absolutely. So I think if we think about the marketplace as a whole, and then we go into a specific StockX business model, I think it's fair to say that it is truly an opportune space the StockX is looking for, which is where the forecasting error results in excess supply or misplaced demand in a certain market. You are sort of an intermediary to bridge those and provide most efficient way for those supply and demand to sort of come to the equilibrium.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Sean, once again, thank you so very much. Any last minute thoughts on your journey with StockX and where do we see in 2030 if we were to look at StockX?
Oh my goodness. So we're extremely bullish on the future. Global citizens, global demand, Gen Z drives the future purchasing power. And so we think we've created a very easy to do business, trustworthy marketplace that those consumers can come to anywhere in the world.
Sean, thank you very much. And that wraps up our podcast talking about the marketplace and trends and technology and sustainability. It was a pleasure to have Sean discuss the future of how the StockX plays the critical role both on the supply fluctuations and demand fluctuations, and using that as a marketplace methods to bring some of the most high demand items to the consumers. Until I see you for our next episode, I bid you an amazing day.
We hope you enjoyed another exciting episode of Supply Chain Demystified. Stay tuned for the next demystifying discussion on the supply chain. Visit uscsupplychain.com to stay up to date on all things supply chain.